Mm-hmm. Is his life okay?
Yes.
Hang on one second. Debbie will give the thumbs up when she's trying to go in.
I feel way too important up here. I'm not. Unless you want a social distance.
It's live streamed. No, I'll put your tag over here.
I don't care.
It's live streamed. We always do that because people.
We've done it since last time. How are you?
You're all right.
I'm doing fine.
We'll move this through quick.
Hi, Paul.
You're good to go. Okay, Joe, if you want to call the meeting to order.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this work session. Myself, Commissioner Joe Wiley, Commissioner Bobby Plummer, and Kenan Gray, and then Debbie Walker, the auditor, is the other person at the end. And we will not make any decisions. However, it's an opportunity for us to get down and understand what we're working on here.
Okay, so, and I'm going to turn this over to Angela and let you, or whoever, however you want to, in what order you want any of this to go. So, starting about, I'm going to say 6 weeks ago, did we start a meeting maybe? I think we've had 3 meetings. Councilman Gray, myself, several people here. I'm not going to start naming names. Hope Initiative started meeting. Oh, actually, before that, let me go a little further back. Before that, the commissioners tasked Angela with putting together some sort of a task force group in the community to work with and to determine and make suggestions of and bring to the commissioners opportunities for use of the opioid funds. That was decided to do that because who best knows about the issues in the community, but public health and the people that she has brought together. It's not the elected officials, in my opinion, strong suit. So we started meeting, I think, 6 weeks ago. At about 8 o'clock, the Community Foundation has involved several people, and I think we've worked on different ideas. I say we. I'm going to exclude Kenan and I in working on the ideas because it really is Hope and the others that are bringing the things to that group. So without further ado, I'm going to kick it over to Angela, and she can start. And what this is for is really to let the commissioners and council know where they are right now and what the process is and what progress is being made.
Thank you for having us. The majority of the Hope Initiative Board, I believe, is present today. And does anybody, have you ever just not heard of Hope Initiative at all? Okay, we'll skip that. Then I'm going to introduce Ms. Nan Polk, and she's our chair of the board at this time. And she's got a little bit of information to give you, and then she will introduce our speaker and our presenter for today.
Good afternoon. Just a little background about the work that Hope's done to get us to the point where we are today. In 2015, the Community Foundation gave Hope a grant of $10,000 to look into substance abuse issues and have a community discussion. And from that, a couple of things happened. I think we partnered with commissioners and had a coalition and formed a committee called Alternatives to Incarceration, and several of the people here were on that. And also from that 2015 grant eventually came the LIVE Coalition that is now under the umbrella of the Health Department, and is very active in combating drug abuse. Its focus, at least right now, is more on youth. And we are kind of focusing on adults, and particularly we see a need for women and having some transitional housing for them. So from the Alternatives to Incarceration came the JCAP program. And again, several people in this room worked very hard on that, going to visit and coming up with that program. Hope Initiative Board made several trips to Boone County over the years and talked to a lady named Michelle Staniford, who has put together a couple of different programs in Boone County. She lost her son to drug abuse and has just become a tremendous advocate and really has programs that are working very well there. So we have taken her, and she's given us some advice that we've tried to follow. So where we are today is, like I said, trying to implement some transitional housing for women. I was just at a graduation for JCAP program, and the men said a couple of times, Joe was there, about how fortunate they were, and they wanted to stay as a cohort and go to the guest house and be supportive and support each other. The women don't have that, and without that, I think statistics say that it takes about 7 times if something bad doesn't happen in the meantime. And we want to give them a chance. And this is something our community is just really lacking. So we have, again, formed this coalition, and our JCAP partners
Right there.
okay, are here and are really the ones that have brought forward a program that they see working in Wayne County. So, Jamie, do you want to introduce the speaker? Because you know a little bit more than I do about it. I'm kind of passing the ball off, but I think she can do a little bit better job with Sandra. So, thank you.
Greetings. I'm Jamie Owens. I am the Assistant Director of the JCAP program at the Henry County Jail. I work primarily with the women, and so I hear a lot about the needs in the community. I also have the good fortune of being friends with Sandra Roussel, who runs a program in Richmond called Fresh Start Housing. And it truly is a transitional program, not a treatment program, to help people get on their feet and get started in life. Either get started from scratch, because a lot of our people really have never lived effectively in an independent manner, or get back on their feet from a life that they maybe lost through their struggle with addiction. So at this time, I'll ask Sandra to come up and tell us about her program.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for inviting me. My name is Sandra Roussel. I'm the founding director of Fresh Start Housing. I started Fresh Start Housing 14 years ago in Richmond, Indiana. And I started it, like most people in life, happenstance, events. Everything rolls into one another. But I myself was homeless at 14 years old. And through a large variety of experiences, I was able to leave East Los Angeles, where I was homeless, to Los Angeles, to joining the military, to being married, having a family, my husband being transported to Richmond, and then me trying to figure out what the heck I'm going to do with me. And again, guiding angels, happenstance, whatever you want to call it. But somebody introduced me to Barb Garrett, where we purchased our first home, and she asked, "What are you doing with your life?" I said, "I have no idea." And she said, "Have you thought about real estate?" I said, "Well, what's there to know?" Next thing you know, I'm bidding on a house twice by the bank, who foreclosed on it. Wouldn't take my offer. They called again, third time. I said, this is irritating. I didn't have the patience for this type of business. I said, I'll give you $5,000 cash for this house. And they took it. And that's how Fresh Start Housing started. In the repairs, I happened to be standing on a ladder looking out the window, and I saw a bunch of people. I mean, this was a large group of people walking between the alley, and I'm a social butterfly, so I run out. What's everybody doing? They're saying, time to get something to eat, Rock Solid Ministries. Of course, I'm working on a house. I have a scarf. I'm a mess. I look like a homeless person. And they said, you better hurry up. The seats will run out. And I thought, here I am all over again. All over again. And that was the exception of Fresh Start Housing. Of course, I had but a 9th grade education, 1 month into the 9th grade. So I really had no idea what I chewed off. And it didn't take long before I realized I need an education. From there, I studied sociology, psychology, a master's in clinical mental health counseling, a master's in executive development, which pushed me to adult and community education for a master's in that, and then on to a doctorate, which I'm currently participating in. My doctorate's in adult and community education with a cognate of executive development in public service. And so for 14 years, I've been doing nothing but developing this program and dedicating my entire life to helping people like myself. Now, the program started out basically finding a place to live, teaching the structure of the military that I knew, and how to succeed in a world that's really barrier-ridden. Eventually, with furthering my education, and I started,
Sorry, it does that sometimes.
I started working on curriculum, and that's what changed the program into something that succeeds. I worked on financial literacy, which is something that a lot of people have missed the boat on transitional housing. Thank you. Rehabilitation, and even mental health is the education component. We often forget that we are educators. No matter where we sit in this world, we are educators, first and foremost. Often programs have instruction, and they believe they're educating. They're not. They're instructing. They're instructing you how to learn to write a resume. They're instructing you how to maintain hygiene. They're instructing you how to clean and cook, et cetera, et cetera. But nobody's actually teaching, such as financial literacy, how to save 10% of your earnings so that everybody who enters Fresh Start Housing leaves with anywhere from $5,000 to $12,000 in their savings account, ready for a fresh start. They're learning complex bookkeeping, accounting structures. It's the equivalent of an associate's degree. I'm not accredited. This is transitional housing, right? But they are gleaning those skills. They're not learning, they're not attaining counseling, per se, the normative method. You know, somebody sitting across from a therapist talking about their issues and working through them. Instead, as an educator, I get to see that they're drinking $90 worth of Mountain Dew. You'll never hear that in a therapist's office, but this is something we can work through, modify, and adjust in a financial literacy way that they don't realize you're being an educator and saying, yeah, Mountain Dew's not good. Have you considered water? You know, so there's a lot more into this program than I think most transitional programs work towards. A one-on-one relationship to help and guide somebody on a better path in life. When they leave, I've had successes where one went to IU East. He's a disc jockey for a sports announcement newscast in Detroit. I had one who'd always wanted to join the military. He's actually in my old unit, 7th of the 101st. He was infantry, I was aviations. You know, some people just always wanted to be a mother. And so we all have successes no matter what our goal is. And so Fresh Start Housing and the method that it had created is non-judgmental. I had one guy who wanted to live under a bridge in Indianapolis. And yes, that's what he did. And then the money ran out and he came back and he retried. And I see him around. He's succeeding. He has a relationship. He has stable housing. Sometimes that's success, and I think we forget that sometimes. And so the goal that I have set for my life is to spread Fresh Start housing. And people ask me, why not franchise it? Just like my program, it's not about controlling others and controlling programs. It's about getting people on their feet. So I'd like to spread this method to another executive director and teach them how to create a very similar program, but perhaps under different concentrations, such as Newcastle is seeking reentry program. And so their concentration is going to be a little different from what my program is. Somebody in Seattle may want one just for homelessness, and theirs will look different. But the core model is still the same. Give people choice and educate them, not instruct them, and they will succeed. And that is Fresh Start housing.
You're located in Richmond, is that where you're?
That is correct.
And the capacity, how many
11
ladies?
bed.
And some are singles and some are doubles, right?
Yes, there are. The intent is to have doubles for the first 5 months. It's a make or break. Either you're going to be there or you're not. And then after your 5 months success, then you qualify for a private room.
How long is your average stay? What do you recommend? What's your experience?
15 months. It eliminates malingering, and it enhances motivation.
And I know when we were speaking at one point, you do have people who relapse.
Yes.
For lack of a better word, I'm going to say relapse, but you don't necessarily kick them out of the program.
I'd find them another location. Unless it's violent-oriented, then it's immediate removal.
Okay.
If there's blood on my floor, you're out my door.
Absolutely.
But for the most part, I've collaborated with the numerous entities within Richmond, Indiana, and I can usually make a phone call and say,
And
do you
get
have
them
a bed?
somewhere else.
Yes.
Okay.
What's your interaction, communication, assistance with other entities, mental health, substance treatment, law enforcement, judicial? How's that work in Wayne County?
Initially, I'm a social butterfly, so I knocked on doors and I shook hands and I introduced myself. Now we have collaborative care boards. We also have, I'm trying to think of all the boards that I'm on and attend to, but there's greater work on collaboration and integration. They're trying to get us out of our silos. I don't necessarily agree with that, because when you're in your silo, you're an expert in your field. We just need to learn to talk to each other. And in doing so, some of the new boards that are popping up in Wayne County, in the Wayne County region, are helping with that. In fact, I think last week we all went as a group to visit Journey Home in Winchester, so we can see the resources that they have and the program that they're doing. I think September 5th we're going to IU East, and somebody else will be speaking about their program. So it helps us to work together a little bit more closely. But I work diligently with the caseworkers, and I socialize with them, and I speak with them on text or Messenger or in Zoom or in person. You know, if a case manager wants to sit with their client during the interview process, I encourage it, because word of mouth spreads faster than anything else.
Are these caseworkers you work with, are they independent? Are they under an umbrella of an entity or an agency or the courts or community corrections or a variety? Or
Most of them are working within Centerstone, Meridian, all the other entities that are in Richmond. I do speak to the specific law officers, you know. I don't see them very often. When you interview and you explain the program, the one thing I say is, I don't want the police at my house. There's no reason for it. You're working on a better trajectory. If they're at my house, we're doing something wrong. I think the last time an officer was at the house was last year sometime, and somebody had relapsed, and there was damage to the property. It wasn't a violent encounter. They were there to make sure that that individual left without incident. And he did.
Excuse me. Have you visited our JCAP or guest house?
No, I have not. And interesting, I've been so busy with my education, I had no intentions of spreading this until after my doctorate, but the need is now. And so I'm just now running around learning of other programs.
You know about it because you're friends with Jamie, so you know all about our JCAP program. That was 4 years in the making.
Again, I think word of mouth sometimes spreads faster than anything else, because if it wasn't for Jamie, I probably still would not know about it.
She told us on the way back from Michelle Standiford in Lebanon over lunch, says, I know this person in Wayne County that has this program that I think would be exactly what you're talking about and what Michelle talked about. One thing led to another. She invited you to a whole meeting, and you're here today after 3 meetings.
Word of mouth.
I know Hope's been talking about this for over a year.
How are you funded?
I seeded it, but now it's self-funded. Each individual who comes to Fresh Start Housing is required to start out by paying $200 a month. Anybody can afford $200 a month. And then by the 15th month, because it elevates, it's $460, which kind of pays for the others. All the funds go into a bank account, and it pays everything, all the utilities, property taxes, insurance, and all the requirements of that housing program. It actually could pay for me, but I'm still at that stage where every dime and dollar I get goes back into Fresh Start Housing for investment. But it has survived this way for 14 years. And because I follow the exact same financial literacy that I expect of the residents, we survived COVID. We were close. I was selling stuff, but we were close. We made it.
Do you have food service?
No, they're required. A lot of them start, when they first arrive, they have SNAPs. And then within less than a month, their wages don't allow them to accept those services.
So you help them get jobs, or you have connections in the community that facilitate that?
Yes. Numerous manufacturers, I speak with them directly. The owners of Paragon Caskets, Belden, Yost, who is the HR director, Primax, David Brown. I make it my interest to actually walk, ride my scooter if necessary, ride my bike or drive my car to these establishments and meet them personally on a personal level, because I want them to understand that I'm not referring what they construe as a bunch of drug addicts who need a house. You know, that's not what this is, and that's not what it's about. And so sometimes you need that personal interaction to help them understand what's happening.
If they don't have a driver's license, how do they, transportation, what's used?
Well, I'm kind of hard-nosed because I came up a hard way, but if you're walking, you're walking. Everything's within 3 miles. The uniqueness of Wayne County is wonderful that way. Everything's within 3 miles. I also ask other people for bus passes, so we give bus passes as necessary. They can ride a bike. You can put the bike on front of the bus, and the bus will take you as far as it can, and then you can unload your bicycle and ride the rest of the way on industry roads in any direction. And then we work on I have some people who can never retain a driver's license for whatever situation they got themselves into. And so then we work on getting a scooter. Most people buy a brand new scooter, $1,500 within the first 3 months. And that is not affected by their savings. They're not allowed to use their savings their entire stay.
How many people over the 14 years have come through your program? Estimated.
Hundreds. I'm
Too many to count.
I'm on my second layer of the big, huge industrial filing cabinet, so quite a few. When I started the financial literacy is when the success was mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. It was an absolute change. A lot of it had to do with where we measure our success. This time they were able to measure their success through their savings. We come in on month 3 and they've got $1,500 to $3,000 in their savings, depending on their wages. And if they're just hedging at that amount, then we talk about finding another job or a second job, whatever the situation needs to be, because they have a goal. And to reach that goal, that's where we work.
Or
Yes,
Well,
Nan?
I was just going to say, what would your relationship be, what to our program?
My goal, again, is not to have a bunch of Fresh Start housing. That's never been my goal. It's to spread it, spread the education. So it would be, my suggestion is I train an executive director so that they can start from scratch, open it up, get it started, and run it appropriately. And then I move on to the next place. If they need help, then I'll be there to assist and ensure that any anomalies can be worked out. But that's my main goal.
And in full disclosure, I do have a copy of the, I'll call it as a agreement or contract that we will get to Joel Harvey to review, that kind of lays all of this out as to how it would work within and how we could use the opioid funds in order to help facilitate something like that. So that's where we're a little, because you're not a 501c3, and so there may be some little changes with that, but I do have that on my desk right now. So just in full disclosure, we do have a copy of that agreement for her to come in and consult.
Correct.
More of a consulting position with whomever may want to start a Fresh Start housing.
Correct.
Right.
what would the term of that be? The length of that?
I-
Tentatively, what would you recommend?
15 months.
15 months?
That's how long it takes somebody to cycle through the program. That's how long it would take an executive director to run one cycle.
You live in Henry County.
Moreland,
That's Henry County.
yes.
So, okay, so you go every day to, is it in Richmond, your house?
No, our house is in Moreland, and the Fresh Start Housing's in Richmond.
That's what I meant.
I'm
Fresh
sorry.
Start Housing,
Yes,
I'm sorry.
Fresh Start Housing
I wasn't
is in
trying to get
Richmond.
overly personal. I don't need your address, phone number, state police background record.
You know,
But the house
Ja-
is in Richmond that
Correct.
you're talking about.
Now, Jamie Jo had asked me an interesting question: how much time do I put into it? You know, what are the hours that are necessary to run it? I need to be there for class on Friday. I show up to be present, to ensure that they know I'm there. That these individuals are working, first shift, second shift, and third shift. We're there to let them do what they need to do. And actually, if they make a mistake, that's a plus, because we're there to catch it and to assist them. So you don't need somebody who's there 5 days a week.
You don't need a house mother or a babysitter because you're teaching them to be on their own, not be babysat.
Correct. And the training is the same. So most of the training can be conducted on Zooms, text, emails, phone calls. On-hands training is needed. There are those without a doubt, but it doesn't necessitate being there 5 days a week. It just doesn't.
Most of your, I don't even want to call them clients, but the ladies that are in your house, are they post-incarceration, mental health, substance abuse, what, all the above?
None of the above. When they come to Fresh Start Housing, the intent is to stabilize them within the community. So we need them utilizing services such as Meridian or Centerstone or other services that they may use. They're only here for 15 months. And if you have them using a service that's within your facility, then they have to start all over again with another therapist, another physician, or whatever the case may be. And that's why you don't have to have somebody there all the time, because you are training them and teaching them to use current service providers from the start of the first initiation when they walk in. If they don't have care providers, then you assist them in obtaining one immediately. You're just there as a bridge. You're a bridge service.
Jerry? I know you've gotten some, I believe, have we graduated? We graduated our first, not graduated, our first, 3 groups graduate, but 1 has already fulfilled their sentence and has been, or close to fulfilling. And been released. Have they come into at all to Fresh Start? Here. Oh. Oh, okay. Okay.
Referrals do come from Department of Corrections. I do go to Wayne County Jail and conduct interviews. Meridian, Centerstone, what's that one in Cambridge City? That rehabilitation center.
Oh, that's just right on.
On the- off the
on
freeway?
1, yeah.
Yep.
I can't think of the name.
Yep, that one.
I know what you're talking about.
And so they come from a variety, whatever services they usually call and do a referral. I don't accept anybody until we've done an interview. I don't want to be used as an exit strategy. That's a measurement for failure. And I'll just tell you straight out, if you get a contract with another entity, it won't work. I've tried. The problem is, usually people who have no place to go, and they have the greatest struggles and the greatest barriers. And so you want somebody who's motivated on their own to succeed, not just another place to go and put their head.
Are you in the same house that you started out in?
No. Now I have, from that house I purchased 8. Of course, I wasn't educated yet. Now I studied sociology. But you need approximately between 9 and 11 beds for a 30,000 population. So I went from 1 to 8 down to 2. 1 is used for my office and storage, and 1 is the actual residential facility.
Earlier, you mentioned about, did you say a man left your program and went and lived under a bridge? So you did have some men, but you don't now?
Oh, I have men and women. It's an integrated system. They have key-coded door locks, double-bolted, key-corded doors to get into the house and out of the house in all the rooms. So it is co-ed.
Like most college dorms today, which didn't exist 50 years ago.
The house, one of the houses, are they like 4-bedroom, 2-bath houses, or how would you describe them?
Usually they have 3 or 4 bedrooms upstairs, and the remaining rooms are downstairs. But they're older houses, so they're large, very, very large. And that's how you're able to do that.
When you move someone out or someone moves on, do you go back in and redo that room, or is there a lot of construction that you have to worry about?
No. Because I meet with them every Friday, I instill the need to maintain the property. I do basic quarterly bug spraying and inspections of the room. So if there's anything needed to be corrected at that time, then it's taken care of at that time. Because COVID shut us down for a little while, I was able to remodel the entire house. Yay. But normally, well, you do it as it occurs.
You run at capacity most of the time. And what did you say your capacity was?
11. Currently, I'm at 7. I just received a few more people. But again, it's that 5-month mark. Not everybody can live with other people. That's a big thing. Some people want a different method. And so usually...
It's not right for, I mean, it's
not right for
It's not
everybody.
going to be right for everybody.
You're going to know in 5 months.
Yeah.
But the good thing about it, within 5 months, they have a few grand on them. And so a lot of them, they stay in contact. It's not as if they don't. They'll find a little studio apartment, something like that, and they stay in Richmond.
No children?
I have one room that accepts children, and that was a little traumatic for me. I was kind of surprised by that. And so I think I'm going to completely steer away from that. That a lot of times when you have somebody who's recovering And the care that they give your children can be disturbing. And so that is a different model than what I've created. And I think it should be completely separate, no matter what anyone does.
You said you don't take any money for yourself.
No.
It might be hard to find someone in Henry County to train that would work with that model.
They can actually pay themselves, but everything I have goes back into Fresh Start Housing, whether it's paying for my education, whether it's paying for the things for my office, where somebody wouldn't have to do that. And so those monies could go to them. There's also offshoot, very similar to what Journey Home is doing, I've been doing for a while, is we get donated a lot of furniture and a lot of things that it took me a while to grasp the level of monetary gain that you can get from this. A lot of the wealthy patrons of the community will donate their furniture, as well as Buller Dick's and other furniture stores, and we resell that to use those funds for Fresh Start Housing. Those funds could be dedicated solely on top of what is there, or it could be used to pay whomever's working.
I know a lot of people in the community, well, donated to like True Harbor, labor, materials, churches, entities, people. Same with the guest house. A lot of people donate a lot of things to the guest house, which are for men. I can't help but think the community, if they knew about something, a program like this, would give of themselves, their time, their materials, their rummage sale materials that are in good condition, furniture, as you mentioned. This community does well when they see a need and know about a need.
If you look at Habitat Humanity's store, they have a little store, and they sell those products.
Hello, Habitat for Humanity.
Those could, again, be used to pay your directors or your staff. I mean, there's funds, there's plenty of funds, but I'm still building, I'm still in the building process because my education is not completed. And so that's where my money goes. Instead of to me, it goes to Ball State, I'm sorry.
That's where you're getting your doctorate, Ball State.
It is.
That's a good school.
Thankfully, I have a good chair, except for she wants me to stay there forever. I'm telling her I'm getting too old, I gotta go.
Any other questions for Sandra, Joe? Any other questions, excuse me, I'm sorry, for you? Okay. Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you for having me, I appreciate it.
I know, I can't remember, Nan, thank you very much. Sorry, my tongue just stopped working and my voice won't work.
I wondered if you wanted to know where we are.
Yes.
Okay. So.
I mean,
currently-
Kenan and I kind of know, but
Yeah, because part of the
part of the group.
coalition that's working on this. So we kind of see it as two facets. Okay, we need a program and we need the house in order to get this running. And we really feel like that this would be a program that is working and could work in our community. And we've been looking around at then some housing. We've looked at the why. And I think we've mostly concluded that that was probably going to be a bigger project than what we could undertake. We look at Westminster, and that's a possibility. We want to make sure that what we come up with fits the needs of the program and it's not too institutionalized. We're currently looking at several of the houses. We hope this would kind of be a win-win for the community because we're taking some buildings that we're not trying to just use buildings that are blighted, but having said that, if we don't do something with them, they soon will be. So we've kind of spotted some and are looking into them. We have a contractor giving us an estimate at Westminster, and we've discussed maybe looking into some homes that might be coming up on the tax sale. we don't have anything specific. We haven't moved beyond that yet. So, I don't know. Do you have questions for me?
You did a tour also of the transition center or work release center is what it was called, across from the old jail. And you crossed that off of a possibility, right?
I think we have crossed that off because
Okay.
it's very, A, it'll take a lot of work, and B, now, if you guys are interested, we'll revisit it, but it is still very institutional. It is still the look and feel of a jail, and my personal opinion, I don't know that would lend itself, Sandra's shaking her head no. Because it is very stone, concrete, it's very cold, it's very jail-like.
Right.
Yeah.
And this needs to be a home
Home.
atmosphere where people are going to live and
Yeah.
start their new life.
Of course, seventh grade building's kind of institutional too, but they've made it about as homey as they could make an old school building.
Right.
It looks less like a school building now, the way they've set it up, than it does something that you're looking for.
So we're just presenting what we have done to this point, and we hope to move forward as quickly as possible because there is a need. As these ladies get out of JCAP, they will tell you that they want it very much to be successful, but they're going to need some support for the most part to make that happen. And this program in this housing would be part of that support. And I think, I'm preaching to the choir. I'm sure everyone here realizes that if we want these ladies to have an opportunity, it's going to take a community effort. And
A healthy, recovered person becomes a healthy, recovered family, becomes a healthy, recovered community. Like I said yesterday at the Main Street meeting, it benefits everybody.
it benefits
It
everyone.
benefits everybody.
It's a community problem. It's not a
Yep.
personal problem.
Yep.
And it's a disease.
I see Josh Smith here. I know the former sheriff, Rick McCorkle, he served on the JCAP, and he kept mentioning in the JDAI meetings that I think you and he attend as well, kept mentioning a strong need for women transitional, especially since, what was it, Sower of Seeds went up. The one that was for women, is that Sower of Seeds? Right. Is no longer. He kept pushing for the women and the families, and he sees the tragedy involved when they're separated from their families. He was pushing strongly for that from a correctional side. He saw opportunities for men that in this community there were next to none currently for women. And I know that was a mission and a passion that he had to try to get something for the women in this county.
Oh, yes.
If I can just say real quickly, I think the beauty of Sandra's program is that it can be modified and restructured for the needs of a particular community. And for instance, her focus in Richmond is more the working homeless and getting them into jobs or getting them into a home where they're willing to work. Our need here is more for transition out of a treatment center or out of incarceration for women. And so the beauty of the simplicity of her program and the ability to modify it to meet our needs, I think is really a bonus. What I have here is a letter from one of our JCAP graduates, and she kind of explains who she is in the letter, so I'm just going to read it.
Yeah.
going to start reading now. Hello, everyone. My name is Margaret Neal. I am 63 years old. I've been at the Henry County Jail for 14 months. I've been in the JCAP for 10 months. I'm one of the first 3 women to graduate JCAP. I stayed in the program as a mentor, and I facilitate anger management. I am a 4-time felon. I was sent to prison in 2008 and was released November 24th, 2016. When I got out, I didn't know what to think. I needed help, and I had no clothes, no shoes, no one I knew would help me. I was lost. I started to use drugs and drink. I went back to what I knew. At that time in my life, I didn't know who to ask for help. So when my husband of 39 years passed away, I was all alone for the first time in my life. So I started using and drinking heavily. I was selling drugs for someone, and I would take from them so I could get high. Now, here I am at the Henry County Jail in the JCAP program, which has saved my life. Much like many women getting out of jail, I have no place to go. I can go back to where I was, but I value my sobriety more. The first 24 hours after you are released are the most critical. The women of the JCAP program need a safe place to start a new life. We need a treatment transitional house to go to. For 12 to 18 months, we need a place to learn new skills for living, help with housing and rent deposits, help setting up a home, learning to budget money and save, and help with resumes. We need help finding second chance employers that we can contact for jobs. First impressions are important, as we know, and we need to be able to go to interviews in nice clothes and shoes. Newcastle needs us to be a part of the community, and we need skills to be productive in our community. I believe working together will make us all thrive. I and other women can make a difference. We can tell our stories and help each other. We can become mentors for other women. A transitional house for women is what we've been praying for. There are many women who would volunteer to keep a house going and facilitate classes. The women of JCAP are strong, eager, dependable, smart, and want to make a difference. We don't need more jail time or a return to prison. It didn't work the first time, and it won't work the next time. We need a place where we can come out of JCAP and enter a transitional program for positive reentry in our community. Thank you all for listening. Margaret.
I remember Margaret.
What I hear every day from the ladies out there is a desire to return to their community and become a productive member of the community. They are well aware of what they've done, and part of their treatment is coping with that awareness, because it's hard to realize that you sold drugs and you know that you took a child's dinner away, that you took their game box away. And having to face that reality is very difficult, and they're very committed to the idea of coming back out into the community and being productive and giving back to the community that they've taken so much from.
So, I'll go ahead, Joe.
Tell her thank you for sharing that letter, and she was a very powerful voice at the graduation ceremony. Thank you.
Very much. And she was a mentor as well through the program.
Yes, she continues to be a mentor in the
Continues to be a
program.
mentor, yep. She is. So, I'm sorry. If you had something to say, because my so caused my brain to stop for a second and forget what I was getting ready to say.
You'll think of it. How many ladies do you have typically going through the JCAP program? I know there's usually a few more males than females, I think.
Yeah, the male dorm is bigger. The female dorm holds 12, and right now I have 9 ladies. We just started a new group. We have 5 group members. We have 3 who are coming through for the second time. We like to allow them, if there's space, to come through a second time, because the first time can be kind of rushed. And that allows them to revisit some of the information and really dig a little deeper. And then Margaret was amazing.
It came back. So well, see, I have to say so. I guess my question is, and forgive me if when we were in our group meeting, are there other stakeholders in the community that we would like to start pulling into this conversation that could assist, whether it's...
I would like to speak on behalf of the drug court.
Okay, come on in. Absolutely, come on down.
And that's really all I was going to say.
Oh,
That we be supportive. I'm a probation officer and I serve on the drug court team, but we definitely have a huge need for this. The guest house has been a blessing for folks that are incarcerated entering the drug court program that have not had housing. And something that I heard Jamie say in Margaret's email is, you put these men and women back in their sandbox, they're going to play with the same toys.
Yeah.
We have got to get them in a sober living environment to help with their success. So you asked for other stakeholders, and I felt that was a time for me to
absolutely.
speak up and say, I believe probation would support it 110%, as would drug court. And we definitely, the more resources, the better.
Okay, thank you. Andrew, do you want to speak on other potential stakeholders, or how you want to?
One of the things that, Joe, you'd asked about how does this pay for itself? And we have to think about that sustainability. And so I think Sandra made it clear that with the rent money that's going to come in, then that individual running the house is going to be able to, sustain and self-sustain. And if we are looking forward, we could possibly be creating jobs for people who are recovered and wanting to give back, because there is no better person to run a house like that than somebody who's walked out of that fire to begin with. So we're looking forward, we're creating jobs. We're hopefully keeping houses from completely falling down around us. And we're building that infrastructure that I've kind of been preaching for a little bit now about a recovery-oriented system of care. There has to be these different levels all along the path for people who are coming out. We may never have an inpatient rehab unit in this county. Okay, so what, big deal? They're all over the state of Indiana. We can get somebody to an inpatient rehab. Any one of us could drive them there, drop them off, and then go pick them up but it's when they come back home to the sandbox that we've got to be able, that's where the hard work's at, and keep them going that way. So the bottom line is the financial piece of this. Everything comes down to that. And so I think what we're looking to bring to you in the very near future is something a little more particular in the way of an ask, as far as a place, a house, and then the consultation contract with Sandra. And that'll just kind of be a balancing act. Does the house come first? Does the person come first? It may just be however it happens, and how we can look at that. So,
Angela or
Yes.
Nan,
Yeah.
who would be the owner of this house if we could find it and pay for it?
and that is one of the list of questions that we have posed to Joel, that he's working on to understand that. Because, is it something that another nonprofit can hold as far as the property and then lease it to this individual for a period of time while we're going through that first 15-month cycle? We might find the right person who says, let's just do it, and they may be able to pay, just buy the house. I don't know. But those are the things we're
Right, that
asking.
we're having to, because Sandra's not a 501c3, we're going to have to kind of wiggle our way around with the community foundation and the opioid funds and how it can all work together to support. I will say that from the first moment I met Sandra, when we were all at Cafe Royale, I think I told Angela, I'm a go. I mean, this
Right.
program seems sustainable, workable, adaptable. Yes, Jerry? Right. Yeah.
And Hope Initiative, we don't want to be a long-term landlord, but we are willing to own the house and lease it
And then
And
move.
we have done that in
Yeah.
other situations.
Yes, Sandra.
Both houses, I got off the tax rolls. For the first house, I spent $1,500 for it. The second house, which is my actual office, I paid more for that, was $1,700. And then I placed the first one under the name of Fresh Start Housing, and the second one is under trust. Once I conclude my doctorate, and I plan to just travel the United States and spread Fresh Start Housing, I intend to place it in trust. So I don't know if that's something that you could think about. That way, no one is a landlord, right? And the executive director is the one who's responsible for maintaining it. I remodeled that by myself in YouTube. I did hire, the professionals for the furnace and the plumbing, obviously, the electrical work. But everything else, it was YouTube and me. And I figured if this old lady can do it, pretty much anybody can.
You alluded to silos. I know Hope and Liv have been preaching tearing down silos. I think, Sandra, you mentioned you have people that are territorial because they're experts in their field. But you seem to have managed to break down some of those silos through relationship building in Wayne County. So I assume that'd be the model you would try to bring here as well.
Does anybody else have anything they want to present or comment or suggest or anything? Is everybody? Hillary, you want to say something? No, I'm kidding. I will say these last 6 weeks in these, we meet in about an hour. I have learned a lot that I didn't know, and it's been eye-opening. Meeting with Sandra, going through the JCAP graduations. I've had conversations with Jamie. It opens your eyes. You go from waffling. I do believe it's a disease. I have grandfathers who were functioning alcoholics. I drink very little alcohol because of it. Just because it's in my brain, I have that tendency. But to watch the ladies at JCAP and to tell their stories, and it's not just somebody that's off the street that decided to pick up a drug one day. Most of them all have very traumatic, sad, horrifically sad stories. I would invite anybody to go to a JCAP graduation because it is heart-wrenching to listen to some of their stories. And so I thank Jamie for bringing that, and I hope we can move forward and get this going because we need it all the way around. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
Is that Judge Crane?
Yes.
Okay. Any news on the CDC grant? August 31st. But that's geared more towards youth. That's more
That's
of a youth.
Liv.
I know Shay's been very involved in that. When we went, you were the committee that was set up by the commissioners 5 years ago. That was the alternatives to incarceration that was alluded, I think Nan alluded to that. And that was the only committee that actually lasted through COVID, through the pandemic. And we visited Tisha Lindsay in Dearborn County, Lawrenceburg. And one of the things she said is what's so successful, she worked on transitional programming through the community. broke down silos, but she said without that transition, there would be a lot of recidivism that would just be cycling right back into the jail. Plus, they had one of the judges, she met with us, I don't remember her name, but she was very much on the board of the whole programming. But it was all a program that involved transitional housing, so you don't go back into that sandbox and right back into your peer group that led you into the vicious cycle of addiction and selling. And because we were told by our sheriff that 90% of those out there are there because of mental health and or substance abuse. Some of them are there because of thefts, because they had to steal to support their addiction. It's just a vicious cycle.
I was going to say that the whole concept behind that committee was to look at ways to reduce jail sentences by diverting people out of going to jail and staying there and returning to jail and staying there. So, it's a small step, but if it keeps the jail population lower, then that's a benefit to the county in terms of cost of people.
Live Coalition sprang out of, talk about hope birthing programs. Live was birthed, one of the many programs birthed out of hope, if I remember right. And it started right before COVID and pressed pause for 1.5 to 2 years. But it started right back up, and Shay's very much involved through the health department and Angela's work. And you've got extra monies coming from the state, got extra money coming from the federal opioid, pardon me. So we're in a position to be able to do a few things that we've only dreamed about in the past.
Jamie, during the last JCAP graduation, I know one of the ladies talked about having 3 children, and I don't know if she specifically or any one specific person is interested other than what you read about from Mrs. Neal, but I don't know if we're looking for a house, are we looking for children or no children, or is that something that's been addressed?
I think there are potentially specific complications that come with children living in the home. Some of that being what might seem pretty basic, like maintenance, that kind of thing. Those costs would increase. Sandra and I've talked about it a little bit, and there is some concern about, what stage of recovery is a person in, how stable are they, and is it appropriate for their children to be in their care at that point. I think it ultimately will come down to some of the later decisions about developing this house, who's going to run it, who's going to take responsibility for it, and what kind of property are we able to obtain. Is it one that's suitable for children? And kind of managing those issues. Fortunately, my one lady who has 3 children, all of her children are in the custody of family. She does have family support where her children are in a safe, stable home, but it's not a home that's necessarily healthy for her because her mother and grandmother don't have good boundaries with other family members who are addicts, and that there's the potential to expose her to triggering situations that might result in a relapse. Where I had another lady who was released recently, and her children are in foster care, and so that's a very different situation, and might necessitate finding a situation where she could have her child with her so that she can get that baby out of foster care. So there are different kind of different angles for the different ladies and their situations.
Okay, thank you.
And I believe something being planned to maybe extend your hours, your work out there, so you can take on maybe more than 9 ladies. Hopefully that comes to fruition because the program has been so successful in its first 9 months.
Oh, you're talking about the,
JCAT.
yeah, we,
But the success
Yeah, not about how many, it's not about quantity, it's about quality of getting them through. And the other thing with putting Jamie, paying out with the opioid funds to the end of the year and putting her on into the health department is consistency with the program. We don't have to worry about funding. I mean, it's there. Yeah. I was going to ask you the same thing. So on my end, what I will do is these questions with Joel, because we need to get those answered first as to how the funding can work with a LLC versus a 501c3 or 501c3 having it and leasing it. You know, those are the questions that we need to have answered first, and then. And Joel. Yep. Yep. Absolutely. We could probably work that out. Yep. So that'll be the next step in having him review the contract and get all those I's dotted, T's crossed, and what we can and cannot do with the various. I know we have abated opioid money and unrestricted. And, you know, I know the unrestricted can be, I think, just used for about anything, but we want to make sure that we're following everything correctly.
As far as the council is concerned, I will encourage them tonight when they get off work or back from their things they're having to do to watch the live stream. As Bobby mentioned, we'll take up the now my brain just disconnected from my mouth.
Live stream.
Watch the
opioid resolution tomorrow.
Yes. So just educate the council members who are not here. I don't see an issue either way with anything that you're promoting. I'm one person. Right. Yeah, it's pretty common sense. The need is great. The need has been great on things relating to mental health and substance abuse in this county, and I don't think anyone that doesn't have their head in the sand would disagree with that.
As we look at houses or we come up with bids on doing some remodeling, how do we move forward in terms of making bids or?
For the opioid funds?
Right.
Okay, so I'm going to give you the technical process of how it goes through. So with Mr. Aarons, with the guest house, he came to us and did a request to help with the roof. The commissioners consider it. It gets put on a resolution. The commissioners approve or.
So we would come to you with a house that we are interested in.
As long as once Joel says all these we can do it this way, okay. Yes, and then the commissioners would update the opioid resolution saying that we're going to spend, I'm just going to throw a number, I don't know what it is, $25,000 on a house for Hope Initiative to provide transition or whatever it may be. And then we approve it, and then it has to go to the council we approve the plan. The council has to appropriate the funds. Like I think I said it at our meeting the other day. You know, I don't see the council ever saying no to the plan, but that doesn't mean it's not out of the realm of possibility. That's why it has to go through two options. But I don't foresee any of that happening. So it takes a period of about a month to get through that process. Yeah, it's a month if you got your ducks in a row. Right. Yes. Yeah. Oh, that's right.
We meet on the fourth Thursday, except September, it's the fourth Friday.
So we have also in either the ARP resolution or I don't think we did it in the opioid, but other funding, we can use the terms up to. So, you know, we're not limited, you know, we say 25,000 and it's 25,001 $1, you know, we can do it up to, and if it's not all of it, then it'll get put back into where it needs to go, reapportioned where it needs to go, so.
State conference is the last week in September, so about 3/4 of us. So, yes, because that conference goes through that Thursday.
Okay. Anything else? Oh,
The best news is we have a lot of fine folks here in Henry County working toward a goal to help these ladies. And in addition to that, the county happens to have funds that are designated for this purpose, unlike 2 years ago or 10 years ago. So I think we're ready to listen to what you have suggested. And does anybody else have anything? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion's been made and seconded. I second. All